Hello Exiles, Redlord here, and this is going to be my last video about the Moke Invoker build that I was playing. And yeah, before you ask why, I just want to play another build. I got super hyped for something on Warrior, so wait, I guess until next week for that. I'm gonna be leveling on stream, but yeah, I'm super hyped to play Warrior with all the new armor buffs, and I feel like this character has got me, yeah, it basically has got me through the game. I've got all the map boss nodes completed, so I've got all 10 map nodes. That means I've done, what is it, like, on this character I've done 80 plus map boss. I've done Citadel bosses 79 plus with 6 modifiers and all of that. So basically, I did it all at once, or almost all. I got 3 skill books at once because one quest is complete 79 map boss, at least 6 modifiers. The other is 80 plus map boss, 6 modifiers. And there's another one, complete Citadel boss, 79 plus 6 modifiers. So I went ahead and went into area level 81 actually. No, 80, sorry. 80, and I did the Citadel and got all of these 3 skill books all at once. Then Anomaly map boss, these are the special map bosses that need some certain condition for you to be able to fight them, like, I don't know, find the missing key or click something in a nearby map, or yeah, basically any of these, and I've done that. And I've also killed Arbiter of Ash on the lower difficulty, not the Uber version, don't worry, but yeah, the base difficulty, and I got my 10 map boss 3 skill points, and that was the main goal, because yeah, now I'm off to another character. And this video is going to be talking about basically the changes, what I would make to this character if I would keep on playing it. And yeah, other than that, the gameplay you see in the background is just some random irradiated, I think it's irradiated tier 15 map with just 1 revive. And yeah, about the character, what I'm most surprised about actually is the tankiness. I thought I'm gonna be squishy, I thought I'm gonna be dying a lot, but I'm just not. The tankiness is somehow there, and it turns out that basically, like, around 50% chance to evade, around 50%, 40% chance to deflect, and like 4.5k energy shield with chaos inoculation is enough. Because that's literally my defenses. Yeah, I got blind, and yeah, I got capped resist if you count that, but that's literally all my defenses, because I cannot even include freeze anymore as my defense, because I'm not like doing enough damage, enough cold damage right now to reliably freeze. So maybe on rares sometimes I freeze, but yeah, also not every time. And so I shouldn't even like add freeze to the defenses of the build anymore, but that's nothing that currency wouldn't fix, because let's just get into the build and talk about the upgrades I would make. So before you start wondering what are the actual changes, I'm gonna tell you nothing except one skill setup. And yeah, so I would highly, if you haven't seen it yet, I would highly encourage you to watch the last video. But yeah, so completely all the gear is still the same, and I should show you the only change that I did, and that was the crackling pump setup. I kept pinpoint critical, I kept close combat, but I basically added blind, or no, sorry, that actually was in the last video. So I changed one gem. I changed elemental damage, or whatever it's called in PoE2. I changed it to elemental armament, I think. I changed it to Gunning Strike 2 for basically crackling palm can now, or the lightning bolt that it creates, it's gonna just cull res for me and uniques, which is technically like 5% more damage against unique, and what is it, 10? against rare. Yeah, 10% against rare. That means basically all the enemies that are hit by this skill, if it's a unique and it's hit by this skill and the unique is under 5% life, it's gonna immediately die, just one shot, right? So, no, not one shot, it's gonna cull the enemy, and that works for normal at 30% life or below, magic 20% life or below, and rare 10% life or below. And the culling strike 2 actually gives you a nice little bonus. If you've culled in past 20 seconds, it's gonna increase your cull threshold by 20%. Which, what does that mean? If you've culled a rare recently or in the past 20 seconds, then your culling strike threshold, for example, for rares wouldn't be 10%, but it would be 12%. So yeah, that's what it does, and that's the only skill change that I did. So as I said, I would highly encourage you to check the last video. But now let's start talking about what I would change personally if I would keep on playing this build. There's absolutely a couple of changes that I would personally make. However, some of them are more important than others, and I would highly encourage you to experiment on your own, to try stuff and try and figure out the perfect setup for yourself. Because yeah, there's lots of many different paths to take, how to actually scale and play this character. And there's lots of different, I watched some on the YouTube, there's lots of different monks builds on YouTube, and maybe you can take inspiration from those and combine it with this one and all of that, basically build making fun stuff. But yeah, if let's say I were the one who's making the changes, I would probably just stick with the skill tree. Let's start off with the skill tree. I would probably stick with the skill tree as it is, and that's just because the elemental expression. And why? There's no particular reason, except I like the way it looks and I like the theme that it gives to the character. Because yeah, with proccing this, proccing the crackling palm, proccing all sorts of stuff like on-hit effects, makes for a cool character to play, right? And that's just what I wanted. I just wanted to play a cool character that is high attack speed and proccing lots of stuff and doing critical strikes. That was the main theme for the character, and I would like to keep it. However, I must say that if you're just after DPS and high numbers and all of that, I think it would just straight up be better to drop and scatter them into the winds, drop the elemental expression entirely, reshuffle the skill tree a bit so you are not as reliant on nodes that are generic damage scaling, like this one, increase damage if you dealt crit in past 8 seconds. And yeah, thanks to being able to drop nodes such as these, you can just start and scale basically normal attack damage and go with only attack damage, which all of a sudden means that there's many more like actual scaling nodes on the skill tree you can do. So yeah, that's what I would recommend, I would say, in terms of the skill tree if you're only after DPS. And of course, change the ascendancy. I would probably keep Sunder my enemies, and I would instead of unscatter them into the winds, I would get I am the Thunder or I am the Blizzard. Either one of these is super powerful, and maybe even switch from Meditate to one of these. Yeah, and other than that, I would also, if I would be switching to pure attack version, then I would probably change, maybe change some skills slightly, maybe won't, but yeah, I probably wouldn't actually. But yeah, I would, as I said, if I would be pure attack version, I would be actually scaling stuff like attack damage and all of that, dropping these crit nodes and all of that, and maybe even dropping this whole section here, dropping the crit, because now the crit you wouldn't have to go super duper crit heavy, because yeah, you wouldn't have to get actually that much crit chance, and you wouldn't have to cherry pick your crit nodes for the ones that scale like actual generic crit damage. You could pick crit damage that is more specific. For example, crit damage for attacks and nothing else. There should be something. Crit damage for attacks, there should be something somewhere. Crit chance against blinded. Oh, that's new, I think. Yeah, this is a damn good 4 nodes. I didn't even know about this. Yeah, these are really good. Not gonna lie. Alright. Crit damage bonus. Crit damage bonus. Yeah, basically, since you wouldn't have elemental expression, you wouldn't have to be so crit heavy, and you could scale actually more like into crit bonus and actual damage multipliers, not just trying to cap out your crit as much as possible just because you want to penetrate resists or ignore enemy resists also with elemental expression. And why is that? Because as I said in I think every video about this build, it has different crit chances for each trigger. So Icy Wave is the most, Arcing's 9, and Fire is 7, which is very unfortunate. Yep. So that's what I would do in terms of the skill tree, but as I said, I would probably keep this version, and if I would level up even more, I would take, now that I know about these, I would take nodes like these, and yeah, I would definitely respec this node, or this crit chance, either one of these, and get the third jewel socket. I would of course have to buy jewels, because I don't know why, honestly. I guess I was just too lazy and I didn't feel like the build really needs it, so I didn't basically bother with any jewels. But yeah, that's the skill tree and the changes I would make. So in terms of items, again, if we're keeping the basically the same like theme with the character here, I would basically take all of the gear that I have and just get better versions of it. So I would most likely get another leech, that's important, another source of leech, so one leech on one ring and probably another leech on the other ring, and just helmet. Ideal helmet would have as much energy shield as you can get, maybe resists, and maybe actually crit chance. So yeah, that would be the perfect helmet. It would have crit. Body armor, basically the same. As much evasion, as much energy shield as possible, resists, and of course, important, gain deflection rating equal to evasion rating. Boots, completely the same. Movement speed, it's up to you, but movement speed, as much evasion and energy shield as possible. Elemental resists, and also gain deflection as evasion rating, or the other way around. Yeah, gain deflection equal to evasion rating. Yeah, like that. Because these are really the only two pieces of gear you can get it on, because this is pure energy shield and this is unique. So yeah, rings, as I said, both of them would have leech, but yeah, my rings are actually pretty damn bad, and ideally I would get just triple damage prefixes, leech as a suffix, and resist. That's it. So resist, leech, and triple flat damage prefixes, and call it a day. And one important thing here, you need at least one unset ring if you want to keep this setup, as I have right here. And if you want to add stuff into this setup, and stuff like the Tempest stuff, or yeah, you know what I mean. Wait, let me check it. I've always, for some reason, forget how it's called. It's a blue one. Let's type in lightning. lightning, charge staff, not tempest staff. Yeah, this one. I for some reason always forget it. So yeah, I would get tempest staff or charge staff, god damn it. And if I would get another unset ring, and yeah, I would just get an extra damage. And yeah, by the way, since elemental weakness is here, I forgot to say, in terms of the skill tree, if you would be scaling into the more attack version and maybe having less crit, I would consider using Ellie weakness, 6 linking the Hand of Chayula, and using Ellie weakness as the 6th link. Yeah. Other than that, the belt, I would probably change. There's a couple options here. You could just keep this for the comfy recharge rate, because this is giving me like 1 second sooner recharge, I think. Energy shield recharge 1.6, 2.7, so 1.18 seconds actually faster, which is a big deal. So you could keep this one, or there's an option to use the unique belt, which makes your life flask apply to energy shield, so you could also use that one. Or you could do one interesting thing. You could do Darkness Enthroned again, but it would actually be with a glove slot and not a belt slot, and not a body armor slot, and you would use in it these talismans. Give me a sec. You would use Talisman of the Sirius or Cirrus. You'd use this one because this one is 8% increased attack speed. That's a lot if you socket it into gloves, right? And that's a lot, especially, and I'm saying especially for Hollow Palm, because thanks to Hollow Palm, you're getting a crap ton of more attack speed. So all you need to fix now, since you cannot modify your base unarmed attack speed, all you need to do now is get increases to attack speed, because you're getting so much more multiplier thanks to Hollow Palm. And yeah, so that basically means that this thing is a huge damage multiplier, and now you slap it on the belt, which has up to 100% increased effect of socketed items, which means one of these would give you up to 16 increased attack speed, and you can have 2. That's 32 increased attack speed, and that's, by the way, 7 more increased attack speed than Rapid Attacks 2 support, which is crazy cracked damage multiplier. And of course I would do the same on the glove slot, plus 8% more increased attack speed, which is just crazy damage multiplier. So yeah, now let's get into the amulet slot. And perfect amulet would look something like, I assume, I was actually thinking about it quite a lot, and I would most likely go for flat energy shield. I would go for, in terms of prefixes, most likely flat energy shield, but most importantly, high percentage energy shield, and then percentage evasion. And then for the suffixes, it would be plus 3 levels, or just plus levels to melee skills. Big deal, big damage boost, especially on Hollow Palm. So plus levels to melee skills, crit chance, and crit damage bonus. But amulet like that would be hella expensive. So maybe tune down, remove some of the modifiers, maybe remove the flat energy shield from the amulet, and it should be a lot cheaper. But yeah, if we're talking about keeping up the same theme with the character, I would go with crit chance, because you can get quite a lot of crit chance on an amulet and on a helmet. Yeah, and lastly, for the Thunder Fist. And I'm not gonna lie, I have a very mixed feelings about those. And I don't necessarily feel like, I think that for this build, definitely they're nice to have, or maybe even for any unarmed build, they're nice to have, but they might not be the best damage, and they are what I can say for sure 100%. I don't think they're worth the price that they have. Currently, they're going for... I bought these for 8. If I would sell these with level 19 Crackling Palm uncorrupted, I guess I would sell them for 10. So they go for like 9, 10 minimum. So, divines, by the way. So, yeah, I don't really think they're worth the price. And don't worry if you don't have the money for it, because pair of cheap, like 1 divine or maybe even cheaper rare gloves, might actually be the same damage outcome. Something, maybe I still have them, possibly, somewhere. Type in gloves. No? Yeah. I still have them. These are my good old gloves. And something like this, with just... If you want to go full on damage, just triple flat damage prefix gloves with increased attack speed, some resists, and physical damage leached as mana. Or maybe instead of the resists, even get a level of melee skills, right? Another source of level of skills. I think that gloves like that would actually be more damage than Thunder Fist. And why I think that, well, highly it's because the Crackling Palm skill, unfortunately, as I said in the previous video, doesn't get scaled by the unarmed Hollow Palm crit chance, which is very, very, very unfortunate. It has only its 5% base, like baseline unarmed crit, and it doesn't get scaled by Hollow Palm, which is, as I said, very unfortunate.
Shocking.
And yeah, so so with 5% base crit, with all of my crit scaling, when I'm unbuffed sitting at hideout, I'm at like not even 25% chance to crit, right? And with this support, with this 30% less crit damage bonus, huge downside, I'm at 37.5. So I would get around 40 once I'm mapping. And yeah, for all of the investment, not just in the character but on the skill tree to the crit chance, that's not a lot. And yeah, other than that, they have huge roll ranges, so yeah, I don't know, and I don't think that the unarmed melee crit chance quite cuts it to make it strictly just better than any other rare gloves. So yeah, mixed feeling about them. But the thing is, you get the additional skill, you get the Crackling Palm, and it's another source of damage, so technically it should add on like quite a lot of DPS to the build. But yeah, for it to make it really, at least for me, that's my opinion, for me to make it really feel worth using, I would have to have the scaling from Hollow Palm apply to the Crackling Palm itself. Otherwise, I just don't feel like they're worth it. Especially for the price, I don't feel like they're worth it. There's so many, just for the same price, you can literally get the, what's it called? Sacred Flame. And yeah, that's just, I know it's gloves versus like offhand, but yeah, for the same price you can get Sacred Flame and maybe play it on a warrior or something, right? We were talking about warriors previously, so a couple minutes ago. Yeah, never mind. Sacred Flame and warriors. So yeah, that's what I think about the Thunder Fist. So yeah, and that's pretty much the gear changes that I would make. I bet that it would make a lot of difference, and as I was saying, let's get back to the Darkness Enthroned. You don't even have to use Darkness Enthroned. I would say pretty damn good option, and probably even better, like super late game option, would be just getting Ingenuity as every league from since the launch. But yeah, getting good rolled Ingenuity and getting really, and I mean really juicy 2 Breach Rings, and just getting Breach Rings with all the flat damage you'll ever need, and and also leech modifiers, and try and scale if there's attack catalyst. I can't remember. There is in PoE1. Attack catalyst. Where is it? C? Catalyst? Wait, what? Oh, yeah. Reach. Catalyst. Yeah, attack modifiers. So, yeah, just scale attack modifiers on your rings, on your breach rings, and just get ingenuity. And it's gonna scale both the flat damages and the leech. So you might even get around with just one leech, because this with quality gets, I think, to like almost 10% or something. So, yeah, that would be the gear changes. I would most likely keep the thawing charm, because freeze is deadly if you don't have the charm, but I would get the unique one, which makes you recharge energy shield, start your energy shield recharge once you activate the charm. Then the stun charm I would still keep just in case. By the way, with just these three nodes, and that little bit of stun threshold on boots, I'm never getting stunned. And and by the way, this charm too, I'm never getting stunned, never. So yeah, that feels good. And sorry, thanks to the Abyss, I would definitely still keep Dowsing Charm for Ignite immunity. And not just for the Abyss, but for the generic game. If something ignites you and you're ignited, it's constantly stopping your energy shield recharge rate, and it's stopping you from being able to meditate. So if you're ignited, you cannot actually meditate, and you cannot start your recovery, and you cannot overflow. So that's actually quite annoying, and ideally I would get 2 of these or something. I don't even know if charm copies work, but yeah, ignited charm, I would definitely keep it. And yeah, other than that, I think that's all the changes I would make. By the way, I should talk about the skill gems a bit. So let's start with what I wanted to talk about. Glacial Cascade. If I would keep Glacial Cascade in the build, I would have to get more just cold damage to more reliably freeze. Because right now as it is, the boss is usually dead or super low HP once it actually gets frozen. So I would have to get more cold damage so I can more reliably freeze to get good use of Glacial Cascade. But if I would keep Glacial Cascade in the build, I would get just higher Flask Charges Flask, because this is just a tier 3, you can get more than that. So our Ambrosia support consumes even more Flask Charges from the Mana Flask and gets more damage. And then for the Sixthling, there's the new lineage support that I was thinking about that says something about bifurcating your critical, and I would say gems. Yeah, it's this one. Attack critical hit chance with supported skills bifurcates. And yeah, this basically, from what I understand, it means that it will split the damage into 2, right? So that technically means double damage, right? Technically. So I would consider using that one. Or you could as well put that one into the Tempest Bell, because Tempest Bell in this setup with inevitable critical is just every time a crit. Like I've got 97, but in combat it's 100% crit. And I think that Tempest Bell still snapshots, which means if the impact crits, then all the shockwaves are crits too. At least I believe it works that way. So yeah, put it on Tempest Bell, and now all of your hits get 2 crits, right? So yeah, and maybe just play around with the supports. Probably would be adding to Conk Area for more damage to Vaulting Impact. Maybe you could put Conk Area even on Tempest Bell. Hand of Chayula would be either Ellie Weakness, Enfeeble, or Temporal Chains as the last. Convalescence, I mean, auras don't need anything. And even Wind Dancer, I don't think, like, I would put Maim and, I don't know, Knockback or something, or Stun Build-Up or something like that. I would put it on Wind Dancer. And yeah, to Glacial Cascade, Shattering Palm. Shattering Palm, the last one would most likely be Freeze, Build-Up, Support. Or I would go and Freeze Build-Up just because of these Ice Fragments, because these Ice Fragments, these secondary explosions trigger on like killing frozen enemies. So yeah, on killing frozen enemies trigger Ice Fragments. So first of all, the enemies have to be frozen and killed with Shattering Palm. So yeah, it would be either Freeze Build-Up, or if I would be freezing reliably enough, I would be adding instead of Freeze Build-Up, the support that gives you damage as extra cold if you free frozen an enemy in past 5-6 seconds, something like that. And yeah, other than that, your Crackling Palm, that's your choice. You can do anything you want. Meditate, I would actually keep all of it. But Elemental Expression is an interesting one, and as I said, I highly encourage you to play around with it. And if you play around with it and take this character into higher levels, then tell me in the comments, please. I'm curious how would it perform. But I would most likely keep Pinpoint Critical and Blindside. However, I would most likely be replacing Fire Mastery and Efficacy for one of the new really interesting supports, and that's Uthred Augury. +3 level of supported skills if exactly 2 other supports are modifying them. And there's a couple of versions of this one. There's Uthred's Omen, which is the same, only 1 less support gem, and Uthred's Exodus, which is the same, only with no other support gems. So basically, these are always giving you +3 levels. However, there's power levels to these. This is the weakest one, stronger, and the strongest, right? So with this one, you get +3 levels and 2 support gems, which would be most likely, as I said, Blindside and Pinpoint Critical. It would be only supported by 3 gems. However, I don't think that's much of a loss, because Elemental Expression just, I don't feel like it does have good enough supports to use in it, especially now since you can use only one like category of a skill gem, of a support gem in a skill gem. That is pretty much all the changes I would do to the character. As I said, I highly encourage you to experiment. These are only some of the changes that I was considering. On some of them I actually dropped, on some of them I might do. Yeah, you can experiment. It's PoE, it's just your choice, and like, I guess, do it yourself or something like that. I would highly encourage you to experiment. You've always got the baseline that is sort of working, right? So yeah. That's, I think, it for the final version. I had a blast with that build. With this build, I loved it. However, it's time to move on. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, Exiles, and see you in the next one.